So as I mentioned before, Bosch video analytics are standard, and I want to set the scene for what you're seeing here. First of all, this is just the web page of a Bosch camera. You can find this task list in any Bosch IP camera. You'll see on the left side we have a list of tasks. In this case, we have 7 tasks running simultaneously. A person on the road, we're counting cars, we're counting people, we're even looking at speeding. We have an 8th space down there that's blank. So we can run up to 8 tasks simultaneously in any Bosch camera. So now that you kind of understand the basics, I'm going to go ahead and hit play. And I'll describe for you what's going on in this scene so that you can understand how these analytics work and why they're useful in the real world. So first of all, you'll see that every object that comes into the scene gets identified by a circle around it, a bounding box. It also has a classification flag. So people are being classified as people, vehicles are being classified as cars. We can also do trucks and bikes or motorcycles. You'll also notice that in addition to the bounding box identifying objects of interest, that each of those objects also has a little green tail, what we call a track line. So I affectionately refer to all these marks as crayon marks. We've got a little circle around all the objects, and we've got a track line. And everything is built on those 2 core pieces of information. So in a moment, you'll see this gentleman who's crossing the street toward us. His track line is going to enter the road itself. So we have filtered this track line to now generate that person on road alarm that just went off. As soon as his track line is no longer in the road, it goes off. This van is moving too quickly, so it triggers the speed filter that's within that field that we've created. So all of these analytics, all of this information is derived from those 2 core pieces of information. First, the object. How big is it? What shape is it? What direction is it moving? How fast is it moving? What type is it, etc. And then the same thing on the track. Did it go here and then here? Did it follow a particular route? Did it stay in an area for a specified period of time? And by stacking filters on those 2 core pieces of information, object and track, we can get really granular information about what's happening in this scene. So what does that mean in real world terms? Just think of this camera as a helper. It's helping you by sitting on this street corner and watching what's happening. But more importantly, it takes notes. Everything that you see is written down and stored in what we call a metadata stream. Metadata is just a fancy word for data about data. So in this case, the camera's taking notes about the video data that it sees. What's really awesome about this system is those notes are not only stored, but they're searchable. So one of the challenges with video analytics is often, how do I know what's going to go wrong? I'll interrupt myself. If you'll notice in the very back, the next block over, we're not only detecting distance, but even classifying at that distance, which is also a unique property of Bosch video analytics, really robust detection distances. As I was saying, we're taking notes about what's happening in the scene, and those notes are stored, and those notes are also searchable. So even if I didn't build a single task in this camera, the camera's still keeping track of every object that it sees. It just said there's a silver car, it just turned right, and that information got stored. So maybe I didn't know that I needed to watch out for illegal left turns ahead of time. But what I can do with this system is build this task and apply it retroactively and say, tell me in the last 2 weeks, anytime somebody's made this illegal left turn that we're about to see, and pull that information out of my metadata notes, which is a really powerful tool. We're going to show you that live here just in a moment. I can imagine what many of you are probably thinking. I'm a skeptic too. This all looks great, but does it work? And I have the same question, and we're starting to see more and more often on various data sheets in the industry these types of tasks, whether it be a loitering or alarm, a line crossing or counting, or you name it. And my challenge to all of those data sheets is, okay, get it to work and have it not go off 100 times tonight falsely and drive your customer absolutely crazy. So one of the really key components of this is being able to tell relevant information from irrelevant information. Many of you guys know that Bosch Automotive is a huge component to our business. So if you have things like adaptive cruise control or lane departure warnings on your vehicle, that is likely at least partially derived from a Bosch camera. As you can imagine, those kinds of analytics have to be extremely accurate. They also have to be really good at environmental filtering, because everything is moving when you're shooting from a moving car. So how do we know which motion is important and which isn't? And here you can see in this example, filtering out the snow while still grabbing the objects that we care about. Any task, any alarm in any system has 4 possible outcomes. A true positive, it happened and we knew it. A true negative, didn't happen and the system didn't say anything. The dreaded false positive, nothing happened, but the system said it did. And then the lesser known but more dangerous false negative, something happened and we were not told about it. So unless you can successfully parse the information from the system into those 4 categories, then analytics are useless. And that is a place where Bosch truly differentiates itself from some of the other sort of sizzle feature party trick analytics that we see with some of our competitors.